Mi gente, you already know who it is. It's the radioactive Papa Danny Limelight, United Wrestling Network World Heavyweight Champion. And make sure you tune into the Alliance blog every week. You heard it here first. Straight from Papa.
Okay, guys, we're back. Did you miss us? Because we missed you.
Rules?
There are no rules.
What rules?
This is a revolution, damn it!
You'll hear things you've never heard before.
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here?
Who are those guys?
And then there's the other guys.
We're the other guys. We're the guys nobody ever bets on.
The following program is intended for mature audiences.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show.
It's time for the Other Alliance Guys podcast with your hosts, Tim, Dave, and Jeremy.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and what can we tell you? We are the Other Alliance Guys, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. I'm wearing the colors today. For the first time in like a year, I got the colors out. Also, United Wrestling Network, when it's around, and various independents around the world. My name is Tim. I am joined by Hooded Goon number 2, otherwise known as Championship Wrestling, from Jeremy. How are you, my friend?
I am doing fucking peachy. I got a new car.
Yeah, that's right. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's nice.
It's a Malibu, right?
Yeah.
That's what I got, buddy. And ladies, hitting the center stage now. Put your hands together. It makes a nice sound for the sexy Jesus of the Alliance Wrestling family. It's fantasy booker Dave Scooby. How are you, my friend?
Doing well. Glad to be back.
Yeah, glad to be back.
Yeah,
Last week was my fault. Entirely my fault. Just a crazy week that I couldn't be here. Look at this. We got the joke of the week from Willie Bowen. Tyrus will never escape Willie's wrath. It will. 3 friends, knife, fork, and plate. Hilarious, Willie. Sam Retro, what is up with you, my friend? We got Kid Cash in the building.
Shit.
I actually used to live close to Kid Cash when I was in Tennessee, and I mean, cool guy. And I was heartbroken when I met him because I'm like, "What happened to your hair?" And he's like, "Age." Age is happening. He goes high and tight right now. He goes, it's a lot easier to take care of when it's high and tight.
We all get there. You know, I got the old Speedo Recedo going on the sidelines. What are you going to do? Jeremy, we were saying before the show, Jeremy's the only one right now who's growing his hair up. The rest of us are just kind of growing it out. But
yeah, luckily, though, my camera's not that good, so looks are deceiving. That shit is getting thin.
Well, we got a few things we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about we're going to start our tour of the territories. And it is we're going to start with NWA JCP or JCP Southeast. I guess they're formally called. Did I say formerly? I meant formally. And checking out their latest episode, which, well, we'll go through it as we go through it. It wasn't great, and I think it's probably a one-off that it wasn't great because it was more related to the production side than it was anything else. But anyway, I'm ahead of myself. Jeremy is going to run us through level 3, the third match of Adam Pearce versus Colt Boom Boom Cabana in the much lauded 7 levels of hate. And Dave is going to ask the question as our fantasy booker: what would have happened if DKM hadn't bought the NWA? We're living in that world right now.
DKM.
Sorry, DK, if you're out there. If Billy Corgan had not bought the NWA, we look forward to that one. Sam had a great weekend of wrestling. this weekend. He did. He's been talking about it in the Discord. Willie's. Is it true Kid Cash was trained by Ricky Morton? I don't know. Not sure. I always like Kid Cash. What a talent that guy was. The territories are heating up. Sam, Willie, you had the guys fired up last night. Yeah, we responded to Willie's joke last night. So we've been here a while, just waiting for you. You guys. I did not watch NWA Exodus on Saturday. Did you guys? No.
No. I do plan to, though.
Yeah, I think we'll watch probably Exodus next.
Okay.
In the tour, and see how that goes down. Let's jump into it. We didn't really get a chance to talk about it before the show too much, but maybe I'll kind of lead the charge this week and feed it to you guys and see what you think as we go through the NWA JCP Southeast review of season 7, episode 8. This show. So I have not seen this show in a really long time. Disclaimer up front. I like Joe Cazana. I got to interview him with Jay once. Friend of the Alliance. Super nice guy.
Yep. Great guy.
Yeah, really well respected down there as well. And nothing personal is going to come out of this for me in regards to Joe himself. But we are going to be, I think, as clear as we can be about it. They start with this opening or this coming up next thing where they're going to show the troublemakers talking to the camera, and immediately I think, are the lights out? Are the lights out in this? Did somebody hit the gym lights out in this place? It's crazy. But the opening theme package for JCP is good.
Yeah.
There's even a guy they show, I didn't catch it more than an instant, who does a superplex off the top turnbuckle to the outside where, a bunch of guys catch him understandably, but that's crazy. Yeah. It's good for an indie, I thought, the package. Lots of NWA stars featured in it, which I thought that's great, but also lots of local talent shown in the intro. Joe and Corgan are featured independently, and they're shaking hands. This is a channel that has, 2,500 subscribers, and this, by the time I was watching this, they had about 1,400 views. They had Aaron Stevens right off the top pitch the show. Aaron Stevens can do no wrong to me, as far as I'm concerned. I think he's hilarious, but
yeah.
It was a good start, but right off the bat, again, as Audrey Allen faces Kylie Page, guys, the sound is awful. I learned later that the soundboard was broken. There is no commentary.
Nope. Yep.
And the lighting.
Yeah.
And the lights are out. There's no lighting here. It's difficult to hear, to see, and I'm hearing things that I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear the wrestlers talking. I don't want to hear, sometimes when someone is speaking around the ring on a mic, there is a lot of background noise, and that starts right here. So Kylie's out. She's the Southeast Ladies Champion. This is a title defense for her against Audrey Allen. The belt looks cheap as fuck. I'm sorry. It's not a good belt. And look, they've got some good titles, down that way. This isn't one of them. I don't know. It just bothers me personally. They do things like I thought, they got a female ref for the ladies match. And it turned out to be the same ref for all matches, but they present it, which I like, to the hard cam. They present it to the challenger. I always thought that small little stuff is good. And then I caught his name as Austin Lane. But isn't Austin Lane the guy from Memphis? Isn't that his name?
Yeah. Yeah.
Same name, different guy.
Same name, different guy, yeah.
He comes out. I can't hear him. I think he's reading a poem and says something at the end about ladies' choice. They beat the snot out of him, and then the referee throws him over the top rope.
Yep.
I don't know if this is at the end of some kind of taping or what. Crowd doesn't care.
And on top of that, he was reading his shit off of index cards.
Yes.
Yeah, cue cards.
And then he said something about turtleneck chain.
Yeah, turtleneck chain. Austin Lane, I think, is his name. Yeah,
what the fuck?
I guess it's like the I don't know Gen Z phrases, and I don't know, he's got Riz and all that. I don't know. It's one of these things that unless you follow, if you're just stepping into watching NWA, JCP, they have no backstory. You have no clue who's going or what's going on. And I like the open, but it's one of these things that if a wrestling show, even if it's on YouTube, tell me what happened last week to get me to what's happening this week.
Right.
Give me a 45-second intro of, hey, so-and-so, this and this. Audrey Lane is facing Kylie Page. Why?
Right.
She's from the Pritchard School of Wrestling, so we know she's been trained. She has some size to her, but what's the story? Why is she getting a shot at the belt? Right.
Even if they'd had commentary, they could have told us that, and they didn't have it.
The no commentary, that just took me directly out. It's almost like somebody had a fan cam and was just there filming.
Well, that's a thing too, right?
The commentary could have been added in post before you put it up on YouTube. You could have had somebody say, Papa Joe could have sat down and threw commentary over that real quick.
I agree. And Joe Cazana's had some really good produced shows over time, and this was just not one of them. The match itself was okay. There was a lot of slaps, I thought, that from Kylie that looked bad, but she's got charisma. Audrey's got
the crowd really good.
Yeah, Audrey Allen's got a good look.
Yeah,
I thought.
To bill her from Main Street USA, though, I thought was a bad move. You could have billed her from New York, Seattle, LA. She was wearing yellow and black tights pattern. You could have billed her from fucking Baltimore.
Yeah, Pittsburgh.
A bigger city would have been more psychologically, to me anyways. It's little, but it's the little things that I pick out.
That's right. I didn't write all of I didn't go move by move or anything, but outside the ring, Audrey uses this guy Lane, who's been chucked out over at some point as a distraction to get control. She stretches Paige on the ropes a few different ways. I couldn't tell who's the heel, who's the babyface here.
That was the other thing. Audrey was definitely working as a heel, but Kylie was presented as the prettiest prima donna, and prima donnas are typically villainous type, villainish characters. So,
yep, absolutely. So I had no idea. The camera angles were severely limited and arguably just bad, I thought. I don't know if the hard cam was set up where it normally would be, but even down from the side, I don't know. Get your guys up on the apron.
Those camera angles were on purpose.
In this match, I would agree. Little things you can always forgive. I didn't hear, the hair whip. Oh my God, she whips her hair and she hurts Kylie. That's stupid. It's not going to hurt much. It was back and forth. It was fairly okay in my opinion. Kylie wins after a drop kick in the turnbuckle. I just wrote down, where's the announcers? Because the audio was awful. What did you think, Dave, overall?
Overall, it wasn't a bad match. It's hard to get invested in the characters when you see them on an NWA program. like Power as opposed to when they're in the territories. Because I mean, Kenzie and Kylie, they're heels in the NWA.
Yeah.
Same thing with the Country Gentlemen. But then when they're at their home territory or an NWA territory, you can't perceive them as who they are on Power.
Right.
So it's one of those that, yeah, you have to sort of suspend your belief. And even though Kylie may have been the face, she's a heel at heart. And I mean, it's one of those things that little things they could have tightened up, and you could tell that Audrey is a newer wrestler. She doesn't have the experience. So she's waiting for a response or waiting to go in and do a move, and it's not second nature yet.
Yeah.
That they work well together, but it's one of those things that it's experience, and between both of them, they probably have less than 3 or 4 years experience combined. So it's just one of those things that things will get better if they work. But I mean, it could have been tightened up a bit, in my opinion. But the big thing was the commentary. The lighting, I can forgive that because it is a territorial show. It's an indie production, and it's not a high dollar production. But with no commentary, that just took me completely out. I was watching a fan cam and not watching a televised show.
Yeah, that's really well said. We're going to see a lot of, as we go around the territories, a lot of people on their way up and a few people on their way down, I guess. But and that's to be understood. But that's a great final comment. I agree.
Yeah.
Sean Megan says Casey saved the show. Yeah, we'll get to that one because I'm not sure, and I didn't bother reading about what actually happened later on. But if that's the case, if that something legit happens later, then Casey certainly did save the show. Sam wrote, JCP did one match, the lights were fine, but after that the lights were down the rest of the event. Like, they gave up on the lights. The first time they've had production problems. They've had episodes back to 2 to 3 weeks in the past. Wow. What do you think, Jeremy, this match?
It got them ring time in front of the crowd and in front of a camera. I didn't go into it expecting a Meltzer 5-star or anything close to that. It's not going to be a contender for a match of the year, and I didn't go in expecting that. Both of them are still green, still learning and growing in the business. Kylie, oddly enough, being the younger of the two, has more experience. But like Dave said, there were instances where you could tell that Audrey was waiting, and there were spots where I could see Kylie leading the match, telling her, okay, now we're going to do this, and I want you to do that. It was what it was. The crowd that was there enjoyed it, and that's the most important thing. The people that are in attendance are the ones that you're entertaining. And they did that. Kudos. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, amidst some bad lighting, bad production, bad audio, they did what they were doing. Sam, man, when I gave up on the NWA, when they went to the CW and I couldn't watch them anymore, and I had that whole thing where I should say, not we, the NWA didn't have anything to do with it. I didn't throw my NWA gear out. I just washed it, folded it politely, and put it in the closet in a spot where I wasn't going to wear it over the last year. But I still got it. Since we're touring the territories, all is not forgiven, by the way, in NWA. It's not. But anyway, you guys don't care. Rick Del Santo is here. Rick, how are you, buddy? Good to see you. It's been a long time. We should We should catch up on a show at some point. Dodie. I haven't talked to Dodie and I've seen Dodie in a while either. Is the camera angle as bad? The worst is AAA. Well, it's a hard cam, probably up in a bleacher somewhere. But the camera angles are down on the floor, looking up at a ladies' match, as Jeremy alluded to, possibly on purpose, but just arguably not good.
Yeah.
As bad as AAA, I don't know. You bite your tongue, Willie Bowen. I am an Eagles fan.
Willie.
All the way.
You give a shit about the WWE, but you support the fucking Rams?
You live in Detroit, Willie. Like,
what
why are you a Lions
fan? I still love you, though, Willie.
Yeah, we love you, Willie. It's all good. The Troublemakers. Okay, don't know anything about the Troublemakers. They're up next. Glenn Spector and Kanan Christopher? I don't know. Whatever his name is. I'm going to call Glenn Spector, the one who eventually does the talking, Bitch Tits Monahan, because I can't remember what his name is as we go throughout this thing, and he's got the worst physique I've ever seen.
Was that the blonde-headed gentleman?
He's kind of there's baldish.
Yeah,
not a lot going on.
Blondish. He really needed to speak to Suzanne Summers and get a fucking thigh master going, man.
Yeah. Oh man,
the Jello shit that he had going on down the stairs was fucking distracting to me.
It was just, if I've heard the argument before, like, look, let's see your body, Tim, and I'm like, I'm not displaying it for money and profit on television or on the internet. Anyway, Dodie points out many low budget and he's provided an awful camera angle. But AAA's camera angle simply will burn your brain into complete insanity. Oh, Dodie, how I've missed you. So they're taking on the Troublemakers, the Country Gentlemen, for the NWA US tag team titles. Cazana boys are very popular. They jumpstart with a double team. They maintain control until CJ is dispatched. These guys carry a beer keg around. So I gather, because I couldn't hear anything, that this is a tornado tag and it has to be no disqualification because they hit him with a keg and there's no DQ. There is a point in which AJ is thrown into the turnbuckle and hits the post, apparently shoulder first. And the screen flashes, at least it did for me, a brief second of no signal, as they cannot show you the shoulder hitting the turnbuckle. Okay. What the fuck with that, first off the bat? Yeah. But then from the camera angle, which again is bad because it's not where maybe it should be, he falls out of the ring, and it looked to me like he really cracked his head on the floor. Like he landed on his shoulder and his head went right against the cement. And everyone seems concerned. Everybody stops. CJ comes out. He throws the X, and AJ is helped up. Joe comes out, and then Bitch Tits takes the mic, and he begins to taunt CJ for walking off and calling him a second generation loser who only gets over in his dad's promotion. And then, so look, I don't know if it is legit. Like, again, the smack looked really, it looked really legit on the floor. And if AJ is selling it going, I'm fine, and he's as wobbly as he is. Like, having had a kid, I've seen go through a concussion twice in football. There was a point where I let my boy go, like physically go, and he just started to fall over. Like, that's how it looked. So if it was a work, I bought it.
Yeah.
So we lost Dave. So at that point, CJ comes back into the ring. He takes them both on. They beat the snot out of him for a significant amount of time. They throw him into the keg. They throw him outside the ring. They hurt his hand on a ring. Actually, Bitch Tits hurts his hand on a ring post. But they throw him into the bleachers. They throw him into a wall. They break a broom over him. No one moves in the crowd on the bleachers because no one buys it and no one cares. And it bothered me. Like, when I was at Greektown Wrestling last year, and I was in the front row, and they came into the aisle, one of the talents over his shoulder quietly said to me, "I need you to move."
Yeah.
Took my kid, got out of the way. Everybody get back. I go, it's crazy. You know, there's chaos. Whatever it takes just to he's back. There you go. Oh, got no sound. I can barely hear you. You got to turn your volume up or your mic up. Anyway, so CJ has a snot beat out of him. He's in the bleachers, and he makes a comeback. In the ring, he hits a spine buster, and then this Austin Lane turtleneck and chain guy comes back, and he throws the belt in, one of the U.S. Tag Team titles, tries to cause a distraction. Bitch Tits hits him by accident, I believe. And then CJ hits a spear, almost gets a three count. It goes a little longer than it should have for my liking. And he ends up, CJ, foiling a double team by these guys as AJ makes his way from the back, all taped up on the shoulder. They get the win, and I don't know. There's a weird double elbow finisher thingy, neck breaker elbow thingy that they do at the end. It was a good attempt, I thought, Jeremy. The crowd seemed happy enough. It wasn't great, and I don't know, as I say, if there was anything legit to that injury or not. But I mean, that was a show in the end. As well. What did you think of the match?
Overall, it was another one where I wasn't expecting a 5-star banger or anything like that. So it met my expectations. I'm with you. The bump and everything looked legit enough, but then he comes back and it's kind of half-ass taped, and he's still taking bumps and not exactly using it, but not using it. Whenever he first gets into the ring, he goes in that shoulder first and just slams right into the mat on that shoulder, getting into the ring under the bottom rope. And it's just little things like that, I draws doubt in my mind, and it just shows that you're where you're at right now. You're where you're supposed to be right now in your wrestling career. You're at the proper place, and I hate saying that because these people are they're talented. They've gotten picked up by somebody. Fuck, I ain't doing that.
Yeah.
But still, it's those little things. I was formerly quality control, so I'm used to finding the flaws and faults and things. I got paid for it, so it doesn't mean that I like pointing it out, but it has to be.
Yeah. What would you give the? I don't know if Dave's there. Are you there, Dave?
Yeah, I'm here.
Can't hear Dave.
Okay,
Try.
hold on. Can you hear me now?
It's like you're on volume 1, like your mic down is like way down. I can't hear what you're saying. But jump in anytime you think you got it fixed, and just start gabbing, and we'll catch up. Willie said he's talking about Sam said Tom Latimer is doing a good job. Willie says he took 10 pounds of gold to Maple Leaf Wrestling. He did in Windsor, actually, just across the border from you, Willie. I meant to go and see it, and I did not. I've had a very, very busy couple of weeks and couldn't get there. But I did buy my tickets for my first NWA event since '75. I bought tickets for the Reluchador and myself to go and see Crockett Cup this year in Philly, my favorite town in the United States. So we'll see how that turns out. Assuming the trade war doesn't ruin everything, I think we'll be fine. I think it'll be good. You give it a score, A to F, Jeremy. What do you think of the show overall? If you take into all accounts,
I'm gonna give it a C overall because the matches were entertaining. They nice. It gets a C because of production, and that had nothing to do with the talent in the ring, but I can't give them any as a passing grade. I can't, so
what do you think, Dave?
I'd probably give it a C, maybe a C plus, if you take into consideration all the lighting and technical issues. It wasn't bad, but it's one of these things that both matches could have been tightened up just a bit. And I can understand Aaron doing a promo for, hey, watch the show, and then doing the donation promo at the end. But him and Joe together, if you're watching NWA and you're used to those characters, seeing them pander for donations sort of takes me out of their character. So it's one of those that, like back in the day, if you're Harley Race and you're in Kansas City or St. Louis, you're a hero. If you're wrestling elsewhere, you're the villain.
Yeah, right.
You have to look and see. It's location, location, location. Where are you and what are you representing? Joe Cazana is the owner. He's not Papa Joe. He's not the by the book guy when they're in Joe Cazana Promotions. He's the promoter.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that you have to look past certain things that happen in the territories that don't happen on Power, on the TV, on their programming. But overall, I mean, I'd give it a C, maybe a C plus.
Yeah, I would give it a C minus, and I'm trying to be kind because I think that this is just from things I've read in the Discord, linked in the doobly-doo, by the way, down below, that they've had better shows and that they'll fix the soundboard, they'll fix the lighting, they'll get the commentary back. This show, the talent, like you said, Jeremy, talent was fine. Like everything was okay. It was just very, very, very indie and bad production from cameras to lighting to sound. And it's hard not to just go, D minus, but I got to give Joe, the friend of the alliance, a nod. I thought this show sucked, but that his product is probably better than this on a regular basis. That was my laundry list.
I was wondering what the fuck that sound. I thought it was just me. I thought I'd smoked a little. Yeah. I thought I'd made that blunt before the show a little too fat.
The visage of the Alliance Studios that we're all in has been blown. The laundry machine is in the next room. Hey, in my defense, J. Cal broadcasts from his closet. So there you go. Look at this, man. The last NWA match Willie attended was David Von Erich versus Ric Flair in Japan at the Budokan. I think I know this story, and I think that look, he told. I was about to say, I think Willie was in the Navy. He was stationed in Yokosuka, Japan. That's awesome, man.
Fuck yeah, Willie. And thank you for your service in the Navy, sir.
Yeah, 100%.
My grandfather was a Navy man. He warned me against joining the service, though. I was a little too unruly.
So listen, that was our hey now.
Oh shit.
Wow. I mean, any love is good love. I think Jay would agree.
Will not yuck his yum.
Yeah, that's right. So look, that's our first foray into JCP. We're kind of just dabbling into the territories, and I guess the three of us will decide after we go through them all what it is. If we're going to go back and keep doing it, seems like a good topic. That was JCP. Not like this is. I feel like this is when I reviewed Power for the first time in over a year, and it was just meh. I didn't pick a good one. I didn't pick a bad one. It was just something that happened timing wise. So next week we'll go to Exodus Pro, hot on the heels of that show they had on Saturday. We'll pick up whatever the latest one is and come back with EC3's company next week. Let us, for now, however, go into a segment we like to call Championship Wrestling from Jeremy.
Attention, everyone.
School is in session.
Oh, boy, is this great!
Let me talk to you.
Get down to the nitty-gritty.
It's time for Championship Wrestling from Jeremy.
The nitty-gritty.
Let's get down to the nitty-gritty. I like that one. That's not. I won't be here. What's going on, man? It's level 3 of the 7 levels of hate.
So we got level 3, the I Quit match, coming to us from Steel Domain Wrestling at the Hopkins Pavilion in Hopkins, Minnesota, July the 7th of 2012. This occurred. Adam Pearce put out an AMA a couple weeks back, and I was able to ask him what his favorite match from the 7 levels was, and he stated that this was his favorite match. And the match continued the flow of the previous 2 matches. I would have paid good money to be in the same room as these two when they were putting this together. These men delivered a match that was worth more than the ticket price. They kept the fans' attention, and where it made sense, got the fans involved in the action as well. Cabana and Pearce are both alumni of Steel Domain Wrestling, and the commentary did a good job of putting over both men's accomplishments in the business, both there at Steel Domain and in the industry as a whole. As soon as the match started, Cabana was asking, "Do you quit? Do you quit?" You know, kind of like that fucking annoying little brother on the road trip that I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you. To which Pearce slapped the mic away and then stated very bluntly and very believably, "I'm going to beat your ass all over this building." And from there, he proceeded to try to do just that. Commentary had made mention of an interview they did with Pearce before the match, before the show actually, where Pearce stated that Cabana had brought an intensity he had not seen before. And watching this match, I would say that Pearce brought a level of violence that hadn't been present before. And throughout the actions, there was an attempted beheading of sorts, where he had Cabana by the upper with the mandible claw of sorts, just trying to literally rip the man's head off of his neck. Multiple and varying types of chair shots. Tried to cave Colt's head in with part of the turnbuckle, and then resorted to strangulation. To which I surmised that Pearce was displaying a level of sadism that would have made the Marquis blush and say, buddy, you're kind of pushing some boundaries there a little bit. Colt was by no means a pushover, though, and consistently took the fight back to Adam and had the full support of the crowd behind him. At one point, Pearce thought that he had Colt, as he wasn't able to answer the ref due to Pearce choking Colt out with the ring ropes. The fans were livid at this point, but Colt was able to come to as the announcer was about to call the match. Colt grabbed the mic and screamed that he never stated that he quit, and therefore the match was restarted. This got a huge pop from the crowd, and Colt was able to not only gain the upper hand, he got a well-placed and brutal chair shot to the head of Pearce, dropping him in the ring, to which then Colt was able to lock in that inverted Boston Crab that he calls the Billy Goat's Curse, I believe. Which great name, by the way. That's quite a good name for that. While also getting the ring rope wrapped around Pearce's neck and proceeding to try and choke the life out of Pearce. And Pearce was dead to rights there. He had nowhere to go. He had no other option. And he had to quit. This now puts Colt up 3-all in a series of 7, and puts Adam in the very dangerous position of having to win the next 4 matches of this 7 levels to claim victory for the series. The next match that we have is a 2-out-of-3 falls. I really liked how this match played out. It was the longest one so far, coming in at just over 30 minutes from bell to bell, or right at 30 minutes-ish, bell to bell. With that said, there was never a lull in the action. At no point did I feel like they were dragging, let's get a rest hold in or anything. These men put in 30 minutes worth of cardio into this match, and they went from bell to bell. They kept the fans, like I said, engaged and able to interact at the appropriate spots. I stated at the beginning that I would have loved to have been in the room while they were building this, and that goes for the last 2 matches as well. The way that they are able to, mind you, this is 2012, so cell phones still aren't as prevalent as they are now. But even then, you had to work to keep a crowd engaged, and these men did that for 30 minutes throughout this match. They kept the crowd engaged. They kept them involved. They kept the action moving. It hit on all cylinders. I'm really excited to watch next week's match and sit down and write up my thoughts and feelings on it. If you haven't seen this one yet, go watch it. If you're not watching what I'm watching, well, I'm not a fucking dictator, and neither should anyone be. So watch what you enjoy. But I think that you'll enjoy this match, so I highly recommend it.
Yeah, it's like you said, and I guess like Adam Pearce said, maybe the best one of the lot.
Yeah.
I always loved the 3-0. Oh, that means you're like, as a fan, you're like, oh, they're going 7. So you're going to get 4 more great matches, right? Unless it ends early, and no one expects that.
Right.
Wow. Yeah. And it's on YouTube.
Yeah. And if you go to watch it, another thing I was going to say, it's available on both Steel Domain's YouTube page and Adam Pearce's. Pearce has the better copy of it, as Steel Domain's audio is slightly out of sync. And as the match goes on, it gets more that out of sync seems to get a little bit longer, so it does get more noticeable. Pearce's is queued up just right, so that one's the one to go watch.
Yeah, that's awesome. Dodie said Steel Domain, a promotion I wish I had joined the NWA. Sadly, it never happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a shame, but and it's funny what will happen behind the scenes with the 7 levels of hate. I mean, that affects the 7 levels of hate around the 10 pounds of gold. And I know you'll get into that, but and how everything goes. But I appreciate that, brother. As we go now then to our final with the anchor man himself, this guy right here. Look at the flowing locks.
Wrestling Jesus.
In a segment we like to call I Respect You, Booker Man. Well, taking the center stage, it's Dave Scooby asking the question, Dave, what if Billy Corgan had never bought the National Wrestling Alliance?
Well, at the time he did buy the NWA, our favorite man was in charge, Bruce Tharp. It's one of these things that as an owner of a property, of a promotion, of a company, Bruce Tharp was looking upon himself as more important than the actual National Wrestling Alliance. And that was put on full blast when they ended up going over to Japan. And he was interfering in matches and doing things for his benefit rather than the benefit of the NWA. Now, the NWA has, if you know about the NWA, you know about the history and legacy that are attached to those 3 letters, the National Wrestling Alliance, the NWA. They're such an important part of wrestling's past, present, and hopefully future that they should be preserved. Now, you look at it and go, okay, the NWA, they're the main seed. That if it wasn't for the NWA, no other wrestling alliance or no other wrestling promotion would have been born. That AWA split off. They did their thing. WWF split off, did their thing. You had several territories when they were cherry picked. They either left the NWA or did their own thing, such as Eastern Championship Wrestling becoming Extreme Championship Wrestling. Now, on a purely business level, you look at the NWA, and I look at it as it's just 3 letters. NWA. It's what matters is the product that's attached to them. That if you look at WCW, they had their ups and downs. For 83 weeks, they were kicking ass and taking names. But if you look at some of their Saturday night shows where they had the enhancement and jobbers and all that kind of stuff, before it became one of these things of you had to have a battle between 2 well-known wrestlers. It was, back in the day, it was usually a enhancement talent versus a bigger name. But it's one of these things that you have to attach to your product being worth the time and investment of watching that TV show or going to a match if it's in your area. And right now, the NWA trademark, in my opinion, it really hasn't done anything for anybody since late 1993, and that's when WCW left the NWA. And then a year later, Shane Douglas threw down the title in an NWA. He threw down the NWA title in a championship match and proclaimed himself the ECW World Heavyweight Champion. Now, if you look at it, TNA even dropped their association with the NWA because they wanted to establish their own distinct identity and brand as Total Nonstop Action. And they wanted to be a separate wrestling entity rather than being tied to a tradition. And the older NWA model, if you look at it, it really wasn't perceived as being relevant in the changing landscape of professional wrestling. It was one of these things of, it wasn't a territory system anymore. It was, you were a promotion unto yourself. What happened in the WWF was the WWF. What happened outside of the WWF, they didn't talk about. That if you came into the WWF, you either got a new name or they never referred to what you had done in the past. They may mention that, okay, Harley Race, he was King Harley Race. They made mention that he's a former champion, but they didn't go and say, oh, he's an 8-time NWA champion. He's Harley Race. He's King Harley Race. He has a wrestling past. He's been all around the world, and now he's here in the WWF. Boom. It's one of those things that if you look at the NWA, they've gone through ups and downs through their start back in 1948. And one of their, I'd say, downs was in August of 2012 when the International Wrestling Corporation, which was a holding company run by Bruce Tharpe, ended up suing other members of the NWA board of directors. And it was one of those things that he was claiming insurance fraud. And this was the liability insurance policy that the NWA took out. They took out a policy saying that it would cover insurance on wrestling events that took place, but it only up to 100 people could be attending that event. That if there was over 100 people attending that event, including staff and wrestlers, if something happened, they wouldn't be covered. So it was an insurance fraud regarding their liability insurance policy, and a settlement was negotiated, and that would transfer the rights to the NWA name and trademarks from Trobich's company over to Tharpe. So it went from a board to a single owner. Now this new organization moved from a membership model to a licensing model. You weren't a member, you paid to be licensed and be part of the NWA. And this reduced the amount of member territories and caused many promotions to immediately cut ties with the NWA. In September of 2012, Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, Dave Marquez's baby announced it had left the NWA. Now, this was a big hit as Championship Wrestling was the unofficial home promotion of both the then current NWA champion, Adam Pearce, and the previous champion, Colt Cabana, both of whom publicly ended up leaving the NWA after Pearce vacated the NWA world title. Now, this was just, it was devastating to the NWA at that time. And then in 2013, under Tharpe's direction, they tried to reestablish a relationship with New Japan. And this is where I had said Bruce Tharpe ended up being an on-screen character. And this has been done at almost every wrestling organization. I mean, WCW, Eric Bischoff did it. Vince has done it in the WWF, WWE. Paulie did it in ECW.
Yeah.
it's one of these things that if you're bigger than the company, how's that make the company look? But Tharp ended up trying to be a villainous manager of wrestlers that were in Japan representing the NWA. And over the next 2 years, the World Heavyweight title and the Tag Team title and the Junior Heavyweight Championship all changed hands at New Japan events. And wrestlers from the NWA that were in New Japan were overshadowed by the person in their corner, namely Bruce Tharp.
Yeah.
And the angle became about him instead of the National Wrestling Alliance. Maybe if it had been more about the wrestlers, more of them would still be booked there, and it would have been, it would have made them take center stage rather than their spokesperson. They ended up getting pigeonholed, and their fate lived and died with the heel president character rather than their wrestling effort and them holding the titles. Then in 2017, under the reigns of Bruce Tharp, there were just over 100 wrestling events that featured NWA talent and titles being defended at NWA member promotions. Some of these promotions include NWA New South, Smoky Mountain, NWA Big Apple, NWA Elite, Vendetta Pro, NWA Mid-South, and NWA Supreme, just to name a few. But these were properties and wrestling promotions that weren't, they were members because they bought a license.
Right.
They weren't looked upon as, hey, we think you're a good fit for us. Come join us. No, if you have the cash, pay up and join the group. Right. So it's one of these things that Bruce Tharp himself said that he acquired the NWA brand. It was an unusual turn of events, but the brand was dropped on my doorstep. It was kind of like a baby that was abandoned. I took that baby in my arms. I ran with it and did the best with the NWA I could for 5 years. I did all I could to get it on on national TV, but I ended up failing. Along came Billy Corgan. I had several conversations with him, and he has tremendous respect for the NWA brand. It's important to me because I grew up with this brand, and Billy proved to me he had tremendous respect for it. That was number one. Number two, he had a vision for the future, the 20-year plan. He's got the capital and he's got the connections in Hollywood to get the NWA back on national TV. Well, we've seen yes and no. It has national exposure, but not the way it could have. As hard as it was for me to do, Tharp said, I thought it was best for the brand to turn it over to Billy Corgan and his partner, Dave Lagana, and I'm wishing both of those men the best. Well, Lagana's gone, and it's one of these things. It wasn't best for the brand. It was best for what Bruce Tharp thought. Cash in hand is better than dealing with a property that you have a say in, but you really don't have a say in. And as much as people bitch about Billy Corgan, oh, he's not doing this and he's not doing that with the NWA. If he had never bought the NWA, where would some of these people be? LA Knight may never be in the WWE. Where would Ricky Starks be? Where Ricky Saints now? Would I don't know, would Cody have ever won the NWA title? Would Nick Aldis join the NWA and then moved on to the WWE later? That you look at all these different, if this wouldn't have happened, it's almost like the butterfly effect. If this wouldn't have happened, then the ripple effect wouldn't have happened, and this wouldn't have happened, and so on and so on. Now, if you look at it, the NWA has history But to me, that's its only value right now. That you can look back and go, okay, they have all these different names that held the title. Right now, nothing against Tom Latimer. He's defending the hell out of the title, but they don't seem to care to push what he's doing. He's had over, I believe, either 9 or 10 defenses. And this past weekend, he was in Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. And he was there Saturday and Sunday. It's one of these things of, he defended against, I think, Baron Corbin on Saturday, and then he had a tag match on Sunday.
Yep.
So it's one of these things. He's going out of his way of today aren't pushing. I'd be pushing the hell out of our champion is going to be in Canada doing this. Go over. They're not making money on it, so hey, it may not be of our interest to promote this, but it's your belt. Promote it. Billy, get over yourself. The NWA has history. You're part of that history because you bought it. Owning the trademark and the lineage, you can claim the likes of Race, Briscoe, Funk, Flair. It's all part of the 10 pounds of gold. Currently, WWE owns almost all NWA-related film in the buyout of WCW. The only thing lacking that the WWE doesn't own is the 10 pounds of gold and the Burke, which if the NWA ever goes out of business, God forbid, I could see Triple H going after the 10 pounds of gold and putting it in his office. Now, we also may never have seen, I mean, like I had said, LA Knight, I mean, Thunder Rosa. She may have never moved on. Eddie Kingston, Camille. It's one of these things, if not for them first being in the NWA under Corgan, they may have never been featured on WWE or AEW programming. It's one of these things that if Tharp had never sold the NWA to Billy, I think they'd just be another indie wrestling organization with no outlet besides maybe YouTube. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but you have to step up or step out. Bruce Tharp decided to step out. The way he phrases it is he moved on because he had done all he could. That may be true, but it was his little play toy. He just sold it to somebody else. It was almost like two kids on the playground going, hey, I've got this baseball card. What do you give me for it? If you get a better deal, you take it. He got the money. He's a lawyer. He doesn't need the NWA. It was a plaything for him. He could use it as a tax write-off. He had it for just over 5 years, and I believe that's the limit for tax write-offs. It may be that he went to sell it because he was only making money on selling licenses to become a member of the NWA. Now, Billy is doing the territories. He's picking and choosing who they are. But he's not the only one. I believe there's several people that have a say in what group or what territory becomes a NWA territory. And Brian Idol is one of those main guys that has a say. It's one of these things that Billy is finally, while it's his plaything, he's finally loosening up and at least taking some advice, although he may not follow the advice of the people around him. Kyle may have a say in it. Joe may have a say in it. Some of the other wrestlers may have a say in, hey, I think this would be a good idea, but Billy has the final say. And it's one of these things that I think Billy ended up going after the NWA because he got shut out of the TNA deal. And it's one of these things of, well, if I can't have this, I'll take the second best. It may not be the second best in other people's eyes, but it has a lineage. It has something you can sell stories on. When they first started and Lagana was there and they were doing the 10 pounds of gold series, that was the 10 pounds of gold was gold. You're telling a story, and that was one of the best things they could do. If they could do that for every champion, I know it's time and money invested, but that story, if you put that story out there, tell the story of Tom Latimer. If he's not, Tom has no problem saying, I had a problem with drugs and alcohol. I've given those up. I'm married to Camille. I've done this with my life. I've turned it around. Tell us a story. If you know who Tom Latimer is, you know he was Bram when he was in TNA.
Yeah.
You know who his friends are. It's one of those things that use what you have to enhance what you have. That some of these wrestlers tell the story of why is Tom fighting with ECW? Does it go back to TNA? They were both there at the same time. Does it go back to when they were in Florida Championship Wrestling? Back before NXT. They were both back. They were both back there. They may not have had storylines together, but they have a history together wrestling. It's one of these things that if Tharp wouldn't have sold to Billy, not a lot would have happened. There'd be over, I'd say, close to 75, maybe 100 wrestlers over the last 5 to 6 years that Billy has owned the NWA that we may not have heard of, or we may not have seen or had exposure. And it's one of these that exposure is exposure. There's good exposure and there's bad exposure. But it's one of these things of, if we hear a name, we may go, who is this wrestler? And you hit the Google machine, and then you have a new favorite wrestler, or you have a wrestler that, hey, I'm going to watch a couple YouTubes and see what this guy's about or what this girl's about. And like I said, you have a new favorite wrestler, or, hey, I have somebody that I can pitch to my friends and go, hey guys, have you checked out this wrestler? Before the NWA, had anybody ever heard of Camille? No, not really. You may have heard of Nick Aldis, but did you know him as Nick Aldis? Nope. There's a lot of wrestlers that if you go back and look at, they transformed themselves from one company to another. And like I said, back in the day, WWF and WWE, someone new would come in, they'd change their name, change their backstory. You didn't know about them. If you knew, you knew. If you didn't know, Mick Foley wasn't Cactus Jack. He was Mankind. All these different wrestlers, if they changed, they had to start over again. It's one of these things that in the NWA, if Tharp would still own them, I'm not sure they'd be where they are. And like I said, as much as we may bitch and moan about what Billy has done with the NWA, there's not a lot of people that would have jobs now if it wasn't for the current day NWA.
It's true.
The NWA. And now I've seen him on several different shows, whether it be NWA. I mean, I've seen him in Battleground Championship Wrestling, been to the ECW arena, seen him wrestle a couple matches there. It's one of these things of it's a double-bladed sword. It's what's good is bad. There's a yin and a yang. That, like I've said before, as much as we bitch about Billy, if Billy didn't have the NWA, we wouldn't have a podcast.
I don't know that the Alliance would have 6,000 members in it right now.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's just one of those things that if Tharp would have never sold, the NWA would sadly just be NWA in name only. Just they'd be a glorified independent, if that. And right now, I think they're within the top 10 wrestling promotions in the U.S. They could be so much more, but they could, if Billy hadn't taken them over and bought them, they could be so much less.
Right. And this is what Dodie has been leading the charge in the chat. But before we get into that, by the way, that's really funny, Devin. The one thing you said there that really stuck with me, Dave, especially was the you're frozen now. Are you still there? He may have dropped, but anyway, that the 10 pounds of gold might be in Bruce Tharp's office somewhere. And I think that's very, very likely. And if that hadn't happened, Dodie says, finally we enter the most waited session, the infamous nothing happened era. Billy saves us from that era for better or for worse. So the Tharp era, I think it's like 2014 to 2018. I don't know, something like that. 17 is when Billy, I think, comes in, right? Could be wrong. Yeah. Today we complain, why Billy this, why Billy that. Back then we couldn't even complain. Most of us simply have no idea what happened because nothing happened. To be fair, Bruce Tharp had a bunch of solid teams. He's been able to pay Matt Riviera. Remember traditional championship wrestling? I remember Matt Riviera. That's what will happen to NWA if Bruce are able to pay Matt. I think I see what you're saying. And I'm fine with that. TCW was a Southern Ring of Honor back in the day. They're good. It is that double-edged sword, as Dave said, right? Like Willie's hit on it, essentially, on the other edge of that sword. Yeah, you get the 10 pounds of gold series that Sam was talking about. If it wasn't for the T-Pog series, you wouldn't become an NWA fan.
Right.
The side of that sword is that you get Rolando and the slime balls and Tyrus if you hate all of those things. And I agree completely with Dave. The three of us wouldn't be here. Would Jay have? Jay probably would still be here, but yeah. I mean, what else does Sam say here? I had no specific promotion at the time. TNA was doing Yuck stuff at the time. Billy, NWA, bring me back to wrestling. Yeah, I mean, for me, everyone's got a story, right? Like you guys have. Jeremy's told his story about how his grandpa, raised him up on NWA wrestling. I got it as a teenager and came back to it where an old high school friend said, "Hey, do you know the Rock and Roll Express just won the World Tag Team titles?" I went, "What?" That was the Billy era for me.
Yeah.
Devin loves the slime ball, so that's the other end of the sword. I don't know. it's 100%. None of us would be here. None of us would be talking. But to Doty's point too on Dave's, it would just nothing would have happened. And I like what Dave said about how 10 pounds of gold would be sitting in Bruce Tharp's office right now.
Yeah.
So where would we be today? Well, DKM would have bought it. Right, DK? You're out there. Right, DK? Thanks, Dave. That was awesome. I think that's it. I think that's it for us, guys. What do we got? We gotta pitch the podcast. So I was gonna get Sam here. I introduced tonight NWA titles for TNA way back 20 years ago. Yeah.
Yep.
The Soch. Where can they find you, Hooded Goon number 2?
You can find me on Facebook at Jeremy Miller. I'm on Blue Sky Championship Wrestling Jeremy, but I keep forgetting that's there and going there. That's solely on me.
Me too.
That's something I am working towards rectifying. I procrastinate a lot.
Yeah. I am the I am the same. I forget about Blue Sky. I didn't mean to make this a ticker. How do I? Oh well, there it is. I guess that's what it is. Dave, I think you're there now. Where can they find you online?
Yeah. At Dave Scooby on X and Instagram. I'm also on Blue Sky as well. I believe at Dave Scooby. If not, just go and search Dave Scooby on those, and I should pop up. If it's someone else, it's someone else. But it's you'll usually see something wrestling related or music related, and if you
David Scoobert. I get the same Blue Sky problem as you. I'm only on Blue Sky right now. I'm not on Facebook anymore. I'm not on Twitter. Toag is. We are at the other Alliance Guy live stream, Toag live stream. And on Blue Sky. I'm on Blue Sky, but I keep forgetting to go there, and that's just what it is. More importantly, however, the at the Alliance blog on all the social media platforms gets you everything from alliance-wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. I know Dave's doing that one kind of wrong. What do you want to do?
Number 1.
And the original, the OG, every Thursday, there you go, at 8 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Pacific, it's the Alliance, or 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. It's the Alliance Guys podcast. That's J. Cal, it's DKM, that's Jaden. And then every Tuesday, the boss himself, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. It's the pre-party before Power with J. Cal. We thank you guys for being here. Please like and subscribe. We are like a skosh away from 6,000 followers for the Alliance family online. It helps with the algorithm. It helps get everything out there. Apparently, Blue Sky is for feminists. Okay.
Some of those that work horses are the same that burn crosses, so you know.
Willie's been around a long time. There's some arguments as to whether or not the Slime Balls will ever win the NWA World Tag Team titles. Give me a no on that one.
I'm going to run an over-under on them becoming Meltzer's new Young Bucks.
The Slime. I'm going to take the under on that one.
Good bet.
Yeah, listen, and if you can, the Discord is hopping. Everybody's in the Discord. We did the what you call it, the Hall of Fame started it here. I'm going to move it over there because there's so many more voices and so many more options for people to vote through the Discord. Willie, you got to be on the Discord. You promised me you'd be on the Discord, and I haven't seen you there yet.
Yeah, hop in that Discord, Willie B.
It's in the doobly-doo down below on YouTube. So that's it. That's all. It's again, like and subscribe helps keep the roof over our heads and the gloves on Gorgeous's hands. That's an inside joke for this guy over here. Until next time, we'll see you at the matches. Meet us by the back door and sneak us in.
Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. before NWA Power. You can find us on social media at The Alliance Blog. And until next time, we are The Alliance.